Welcome to Forward Focused. In each episode, we're helping you take another step toward becoming a more effective, well-rounded leader. I'm your host, Jon Reusch, and in today's episode, we sat down with Nick Tracy, owner-operator of Nick Tracy Real Estate at Keller Williams Lakeside. Listen in today for Nick's story around how he transitioned from the 9-to-5 kind of jobs into a career worth having in real estate. Listen in for the lessons that he's sharing around treating it as a business and learning to actually go and apply and execute on a strategy, not just learning to learn more things. So without further ado, here we go. All right, very cool. Well, Nick, thanks for being here today. I appreciate you carving out some time in your productive, not busy schedule and sitting with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks. So we're going to hop right into it. One of the first things I wanted to just give the audience a little bit of a insight into who's Nick. So tell me a little bit about your family, passions, hobbies, just who are you?
Yeah, thank you. So I actually stole this from somebody in Keller Williams. I am a family man with a business. 33 years of age. I have two girls, a 7 and a 6-year-old, Eleanor and Margaret. And my wife, Stephanie. We've been married about 5 years now. And I've been selling real estate, helping families for about 10 years now. I was dual career for the first 2 years, and I was full-time for the last about 8. Matter of fact, this year, 2021, November, will be 10 full years in the business. When I'm not doing that, I'm doing a lot of cooking, a lot of backpacking, a lot of biking, spending time with the family, just, doing what we do to live this life,
Yeah, I know you're big into camping and hiking and trails and getting out in nature as much as you possibly can when you're able to. So that's cool to see you experience that, not only for yourself with friends, but with your family too.
Yeah, try to play some golf, more often than not, it doesn't work, but hey, it's a process.
In fact, one time, the audience will love this. So my wife and I were going through a local park near where both of us live. And her and I were probably about 2.5 miles into our hike. And all of a sudden I turned to my left and I see this guy up on this kind of like hill with 2 little girls. And I'm like, Haley, I think that's Nick. And she's like, that's not Nick. And then I'm like, Nick! And he like looks up and he waves and he's just like, it was Nick. So
you're right though. Yeah. Cause we were deep back in there, it's not like we were just in like a little local park. That was hilarious.
Yeah. That was funny. So, and you were making food with them and hanging out and teaching them the way of the way of hiking. So it's cool. So tell me how you got started. What did you do before real estate? You kind of have a pretty eclectic background with a lot of different hats you wore.
Yeah, totally. So, like I said, I'm 33, right? So, I was in my early 20s. I was doing a couple things. I was running a couple banquet halls in the St. Clair Shores area, and I was also a head bartender at a joint in Clinton Township, right? So, I come from the restaurant, hospitality industry, and I was doing that for a while. And at this point, it brought me into my early 20s, right? And I bought my first house, right? In the St. Clair Shores area. And at that time, after I bought and closed on it, the person that sold me the house offered me a job in real estate. And at that point, I got to tell you, I was 22, 23 years old and I had like no path. I didn't really have like any kind of education. And I was like, well, I got to do something. And I kind of looked at it as it's a service industry, but like elevated, right? Instead of giving people a dining experience, you're, helping them with a pretty big financial investment, which is their home, And it's I was told it was a people business, and it is it's a service business. So I was like, yeah, let's give this a run. And knowing what I know now, I may have second guessed it, but it ended up being the best thing that I've ever done. I did both for a while, right? So in the last the first year and a half, 2 years, I would go to at this time it was only the bar, right? It was a pretty decent steakhouse. It wasn't like a shot in a beer kind of place, right? So I'd go there during the day, shut that down about 10 o'clock, go back to the real estate office where I was working with buyers mostly, and start looking at homes for them. I was young, I was single, I had no kids, so I had time, so. And I found myself leaving the real estate office at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning some days, going back home, and then around and around we go.
Rinse and repeat.
Right. Cutting your teeth in the business.
Yeah, and for our listeners that may not know, you were on a team that worked under a brokerage. So just hit on that for a second. What's a team? And you said you're working with buyers, meaning that you had a specific role on that team.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. So I came onto a team at a smaller local brokerage, right? And so when you're a part of a team, you really have kind of more of a specific job. And in this case, I was working with buyers. You call it a buyer specialist, a buyer consult person, whatever. So
right.
The Rainmaker had all the responsibilities of admin support and running payroll and things like that. My job was just to sell real estate, right? So, and that's really kind of how I learned the business. Because like in this business, the more that you know and the more that you learn, the less work you do for no reason. So I spent my first couple of years just learning and failing, and ended up doing a lot of work for no reason. But it really wasn't for no reason, because it made me learn to help develop my career as a real estate salesperson, consultant.
Yeah. So you're on this team, your dual career. When was the moment when you said to yourself, I'm going to be all in on real estate? When do you have a moment that sticks out to you on when that happened, or when you decided, you know what, it's time to make this jump all in?
Like I said, I was about a year into doing dual careers, and I was at the restaurant. In the restaurant business, it's very high stress, a lot of heat, a lot of problems, a lot of things. And I was getting too busy in real estate to where I had to take conference calls in the bathroom, and I had to respond to emails while washing dishes. I felt like I was doing both things not very well, right? So I was like, okay, I was living relatively cheap, again, single, no kids. I had those kind of options. So I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to go all in on this. I have to do something. I can't be doing what I'm doing for the rest of my life. So I decided to just decide.
It's funny that you say it like that, because my mother-in-law told me I was at a crossroads in a career decision myself for something. And I'm not sure which way is the right decision. And she looked at me and she goes, John, stop trying to go make the right decision. Weigh your pros and cons, analyze it, make a decision, and then make that one the right one. And that sounds like what you essentially did. You noticed that there was stress pulling from both ends. You weren't giving your all. And I know you really well. You're an all or nothing kind of guy. If you can't be all in and give something your all, you're not going to do it. You're just not. So clearly your values were not in alignment with how you were performing, and you put your clients first and you jumped.
Yeah, because it's time, the time on whatever task that you're doing, and the restaurant business was just pulling away my time to where I could use my time more efficiently, and it was like a career, not taking anything away from the restaurant business, but
sure.
it was a job.
Sure.
I was just punching a clock and making my house payment. I'm like, all right, let's evolve. Let's move the puck down the ice.
So let's continue to move this puck down the ice. So as your career is taking off, when did you come to Keller Williams with your team, right? And then let's talk a little bit about what Keller Williams potentially did for your family life, personal life, your business. And it also showed you some opportunities to potentially start your own operation, right? So talk to me about that. Why Keller Williams, what it did for your business, and then sort of how it's evolved since you've been here.
Yeah, the biggest thing that why we came to Keller Williams and my aha is that real estate's a very layered business, to where it doesn't have to be working with buyers and sellers all the time. You could be a part of coaching or consulting other agents and teams. You could be a part of leadership, which isn't directly involved with actual real estate transactions. So culture was a big part of it. The real estate industry tends to be very like you are on your own, in other brokerages. Whereas like Keller Williams, it's like, hey, we are all in this together is a much better philosophy than you are on your own, right? So that was their strength in numbers. So that was important when we made our decision. When we came to Keller Williams, I wasn't very high on the totem pole regarding like I was still a part of the team. The Rainmaker and other people in the organization kind of made the decision with our buy-in, right? So I was like, yeah, let's do it, and this was probably 5-6 years ago at this point. And then by the time I came to Keller Williams, I was offered other opportunities, being a part of the leadership council, being a part of the coaching here. It makes you better as a person, and also ultimately as running a real estate business.
Well, and specifically, let's get a little granular on that for a second. So specifically, you came to me, I don't know, probably 1 to 2 years of me being at Keller Williams Lakeside, and you said, I'd like to step up and use my time purposely and almost vertically stack your time. And so what you did is every morning for a good year, when you would come in and lead generate and prospect to your database and look for clients for the listings and buyers you had, you invited brand new agents to participate in that experience, to shadow you, to watch you, and then also do it. And I don't know, you probably made an imprint in your DNAs on over 100 agents at this office at this point.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, backing up on that is like, the thing about Keller Williams is that when you train like other new agents, not even new agents, just agents that want to be developed, it makes you better as a person, right? So Keller Williams really hones in on that, is that when you train, you become more
master of it.
Yeah, exactly. Master of your craft. Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's another thing that Keller Williams really does as well, because like I'm less interested in a good year as I'm more interested in a good career, having a system and a model and having a system around replicating whatever your goal is, 20, 50, 100, 500 units every single year over year, rather than haphazardly selling real estate, right? So
right, and the focus on those models and systems, because that's another key point too, and this applies to any business. The reason you put models and systems around a sales quota or anything that can be duplicated, like you mentioned, anything. It could be building cars, it could be making tennis shoes, right? The reason is so then you can either go sell more or make more business opportunity, or go spend time with family, go spend time on your passions,
right,
your hobbies, and live the life by design you desire.
Right.
And that's the piece that sometimes people miss. One of the things I love to say is, if you want the freedom and flexibility of owning your own business, you need to treat it like a 9 to 5 the first 5 years.
Well, people get into real estate for the flexibility, and nothing could be further from the truth, right? Because if you're not regimented in your time and in your daily schedule, you let just anything, you let time get away from you.
So if I'm an aspiring entrepreneur, I'm an aspiring leader who, maybe it's just party of one, right? When you're talking to yourself in the hallway, it's an all-staff meeting. You're really thinking about, how do I go to that next level? Well, it starts with time blocking. It starts with getting super specific with, do I have the right activities on my calendar? And are those activities supporting where I desire to be a year from today? That's it.
Yeah.
And if you don't have clarity on that, you need a coach. You need a consult. You need to be able to get clear on that to live the life that you deserve. And it's not like this just came to you overnight. You took courses through Keller Williams where we had professional trainers fly in and train every week that helped you live a life by design, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's like, it's important to begin with the end in mind. Where do you see yourself in 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years? Once you start thinking about that 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, it's difficult. Like it's hard to actually, I call it putting it in the parking lot, or having your white space. Right? Or actually scheduling thinking time to be like, all right, where do I want to be and how do I want to move this needle? And 30 days is easy, even 60 days, 90. But once you start thinking about that 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, it requires some serious reflection. And a lot of salespeople, I find that they're kind of impatient. So it's, if it's anything, you got to play the long ball in this business and really in this life, You plant the seeds for the harvest. It's not an overnight thing.
If you could go back and tell Nick, and maybe that's it right there, but if you could tell Nick something in his first 12 months in this business, what would you tell him? Is it that line right there? Is there something else?
Lead generation. If building those relationships and keeping those relationships, that, because a lot of people, it's like, get ready, get set, and there's no go, right? Don't learn to know, learn to do. And it's this is an action business. And I know we're talking about real estate more or less right now, but this is anything. It's any business. Action. Yeah, that's right. The actions are what get you the results. Don't learn it just for the sake of the education. Learn it for application.
So last year, COVID shuts down the world.
Yeah.
And can you highlight or give an example to our audience when you nurtured your relationships while infusing one of your hobbies that also helped grow your business? There was something specific you did that I just thought was brilliant.
So COVID shut down. This is probably April-ish, we'll call it. And I was like, it shut down everything, right? Shut down schools and nurses were, they were going wall to wall all day, every day. So I was like, what am I going to do? And so what I do to make people feel better is that I tend to feed people. I don't really know how to, nurture people above and beyond that, right? So I was like, all right, what am I going to do? So me and my wife, we decided to go to Costco, and we made about 60 dishes, 60 meals. It was a breaded chicken and a pasta, and we boxed them up, we sanitized them, everything. It was all like legit, bagged them up, and I hand delivered them to all of like my kin, my core people, right? That were teachers and people in the restaurant business, people that got like straight up laid off. And it was just a note that said, hey, I'm thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. It's like making those deposits on people. That's when withdrawals will come later, So it's like my business is run on deposits and withdrawals. So took 2 days, hand delivered them. Didn't know I was coming. I was kind of like, hey, you're going to take this. If you don't want it, that's fine. It wasn't like an invitation, So, and yeah, it was great. It was a great thing. I got a lot of good feedback. I didn't really tell anybody I was doing it. I didn't think that was the point. And it ended up being, it was 50 like houses, ended up being about 100, 120 mouths to feed. So that was cool.
So if I'm hearing that, and I, again, applying that to my own life or business, there's relationship building in there. There's an infusion of your passion or hobby of cooking and feeding others. There's a gratitude component there. I think leadership in business ownership is gratitude, right? Taking care of the people that matters of influence to you, right? There's all these different lessons, I think. So I would challenge our audience, if I'm listening right there, to reflect for a moment and think about how can you infuse one of your passions or hobbies to build and nurture and strengthen relationships in your core. And if you can do that, it's a beautiful mix of a hobby or an enjoyment. Maybe you're working too many hours and you haven't cooked in 3 weeks and you love to cook. Well, what would it look like if you could cook and use that in your business and you vertically stack? If you've listened to Forward Focus before, I've talked about vertically stacking your time so you can maximize the outcomes in the same hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, because that we all have, right? How can you vertically stack and get all these different benefits from it?
And while you're doing all of that, what's happening at the same time is you're building your brand, which is also building awareness. So that's equally important. That's like almost like a side effect of doing these things. And if it's not cooking, it could be like getting coffee with people, or just a simple text message. Just let them know that you're thinking about them. It could be 5 a day. Whatever you do, like back into it to make it a daily routine.
Let's shift gears here. So you're big into fitness. You like running, lifting, exercising. You do it outside, you do it inside, etc. What lesson from exercise have you pulled and you apply to either leadership, whether it's with the ALC, the Associate Leadership Council here at Keller Williams Lakeside, or in your business? What lesson from working out or exercising do you replicate from that regimen into your business or leadership?
Consistency is the best. It's easier to stay in shape than to get in shape. It's easier to keep talking to people rather than not, and then getting, I guess, back on the horse. I think leaders and successful people were more or less always on the horse, so to speak. We're always in the game. We're always doing something to move the needle. I guess like with fitness is I have to do it. It's
right.
Not an option. And when moving the needle in your business, or when wanting to advance your business, it's I would rather have people be good consistently than great occasionally. I don't really believe in being like sporadically awesome.
Yeah, the 1% better every day.
1% better every day.
And when you really think about what you're saying there, the lesson is that consistency compounds.
Yes.
It's just like when you put $100 a week into a savings account, and maybe not in today's world with where interest rates are, but in any other time, you're going to make not only money saved $400 a month, right? A month. But as that starts to generate interest, now you're making, $10 a year off that. Then you make money off that $10.
Yeah.
And it that's what, wasn't it Einstein that said it's the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest, or maybe it was Benjamin Franklin. I don't know who it
Somebody.
was. But it's true. Time on task over time. That's what matters. That's how you craft a skill. Malcolm Gladwell talks about 10,000 hours, right? And we've talked about his book before. And in that book specifically, he talks about it's not 10,000 hours for every new skill. There's transferable skills. So if I know how to cook, using that example, then if I go over here and I'm having a barbecue for my, all my past clients for the last year at my house, I'm going to be able to use that skills of cooking in a whole nother way, right?
It's a vessel.
And maybe I even say, hey, if you have, young teenage kids that want to come by and learn how to set up a smoked brisket, have them drop by on Saturday afternoon because that's what we're eating on the Sunday barbecue. And then you're teaching them how to prep a brisket. Well, now you're teaching, you're infusing that passion to help others, to help the next generation, and you gave mom and dad a break for 3 hours.
And you could translate that into like sports or fishing or an extracurricular activity. It could be all walks of life, So yeah, and it's like, the sooner you start, the sooner you have like a thermostat of these things, because when we're teaching, these new or seasoned agents that want to, learn something different. Yeah, it's easy for us to talk about it, but what you're not seeing is us behind the scenes working on this stuff for hours and hours, for months and years. We didn't get this way by, randomly doing it.
People see the product and they don't see the progress. Right. So they see this product that's in front of them today and they go, wow, at 33 or at 40 years old, look what they're doing.
Right.
What choices were you making at 25? What choices was I making? And then let's go side by side every year. And then you'll see why I am where I am today. The role models I hung out with, the books I listened to, the podcast I focused on, the music I listened to, the choices I made.
Right.
Every choice has consequence, good and bad.
What you consume is not only what you eat.
Right. It's so much more. It's what you put in here and in here, right? So let's shift back into your business a little bit. So a couple years ago, you made a pretty difficult decision. And the reason I'm highlighting this next piece is because I think business is a series of difficult decisions.
Yes.
It just is. And can you walk us through how you made that difficult decision and decided after many years to part ways with the team in an amicable and respectful way, of course, and sort of launch your own enterprise? Talk about that, because I think a lot of people struggle with making those difficult decisions.
Yeah, totally. So again, the whole thing, right? Licensed for almost 10 years. I was part of a team until about a year and a half ago. Right, so 2020 was my first full year as a solo agent.
Heck of a year to pick a year to launch.
That's what we were talking
business
about. Yeah, like, well, I might as well do it now. And then, oh, hey, look, a pandemic. I guess it wasn't any one thing that caused the jump. It was just a bunch of smaller things, and it's like I owe a lot of my, if not most of my knowledge and development as a real estate agent to the team that I was on. And it came to a point where I felt like I outgrew the environment that I was in, meaning I wanted more and better just like conversations and environment and atmosphere. Like that was one thing. And number two, I felt like my brand was getting diluted because it was like me. And then there was the team name, and then Keller Williams Lakeside, is that there was a lot of stuff. And I wanted like the permission to kind of do my own thing with the models and systems that Keller Williams has. So it was just a bunch of a switch didn't necessarily flick. It was a long time coming, and I was just like, and I have enough relationships in my life to not necessarily need business being handed to me.
Sure.
Because I know how to wake up in the morning and go make things happen. So
there's hunters and skinners, right?
Hunters and skinners. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it was as far as advice, it's like, do you have enough relationships and enough wherewithal, enough know-how to make it happen on your own. It's a hard blanketed statement to give advice to people because everybody's different. So I can only say I knew it was time when things were a lot easier when I was not a part of a team.
Sure.
Whereas a lot of people, it's easier when you're on a team. For me, it was the opposite. That's when I knew it was time.
Sure. Is there anything that you're taking from that last year and a half, and you're doubling down on for the next year and a half?
Yeah, just all relationships, all people in my life. There's a saying that it's about who you know, and that there's some truth to that. But I'm more of a thing. It's about who knows you. So I'm involved with a lot of different, my friends run businesses, and so I pour into them, and that shows up, So yeah, just doubling it. It's like there's also a thing like, work on your weaknesses. Yes, you should do that, or you can double down on your strengths.
Right.
And my strengths are working with people, having people in my life. I'm very emotionally aware of what's going on, so that helps.
Yeah, very cool. Getting into some like resources, whether it's a favorite book, a book that's made a big influence on your life, a resource of some sort, maybe it's a movie or a documentary, maybe a podcast. Can you name for the audience just a couple that come to mind as, reading that or using this has really helped me personally or professionally?
Yeah, I like the most recent one I've read was The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. That's a great book, it's good not only in real estate, but just as business and in life. That book is based on like having thinking time and actually like parking everything and just simply thinking on everything, your business, your life. There's that. As far as a podcast, I recommend Forward Focused. It's a, I'm sorry.
Tell me more about that.
Tell me more about that. Right. No, there's another one called Empire Builders. It's the sister podcast to The One Thing.
And The One Thing, I know for a fact, it was Jay Papasan and Gary Keller wrote The One Thing, right?
Yeah.
And then they've done Jeff Woods and some other folks involved with Keller Williams have done a spun-off podcast based on principles found in The One Thing, which is a resource we've talked about on Forward Focus before.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, good. Yeah, for sure. And then again, that comes back to that, like getting 1% better every day. You don't want to be like a knowledge junkie, right? Because like when you just want to seek all day, every day, you tend to get burnt out. So just like, these podcasts, they're 20 minutes, they're 30 minutes out of your whole day. You could listen to it while you're commuting. It doesn't have to be a huge commitment all day, every day. Just a little bit better every single day.
Yeah, outside of our interviews, which are a little bit longer, they're about 45 minutes or so.
Okay.
All of our podcasts here at Forward Focus are between 20 and 30, and then our flashcasts are about 10.
Yes.
For that exact reason. We want to give you chunked down, bite-sized things that you can process, that you can sort of marinate on, and then go apply.
Yeah.
And so I love that.
Well, it's almost like let's say you're on social media and you see a video. Like the first thing that you're doing is understanding what content it is, and the second thing you're doing is understanding how long it is. Because nobody, for like little things like that, nobody has an hour and a half, 2 hours just to sit and absorb. It's got to be quick. It's got to be purposeful.
Shifting gears into impact, right? Some of the themes of what you're talking about here is that you're standing on the shoulder of giants. That's sort of the phrase I would say based on what you've described to me, from the restaurant industry to the team that you were part of to the brokerage, etc. So can you name somebody who's made a tremendous impact on your business or on your leadership development, and sort of what you learned from them and what you want to emulate from who they are? It doesn't even need to be somebody you know personally, but who comes to mind when you think leadership or you think your business?
Yeah, totally. So I've had several coaches over the years. So those people definitely come to mind. My most recent, his name's David Long out of New York. He's not necessarily a real estate coach, but just like a business and developmental coach. I gotta tell you, the Rainmaker that I was a part of for many years, he really taught me the fundamentals of the business. I owe it to him for a shout out. Just people, all the leadership here, like all the people on the ALC, it's like those guys and girls, like they're, we're in this together, and the conversations that I have with them, it's irreplaceable.
Talk about the ALC a little bit. So what is the ALC from your lens? You've served on it multiple years. You've grown in it. Absolutely. What is the ALC and what do you get out of it?
Yeah, so it's Agent Leadership Council or Associate Leadership Council. It is it's a 10, 12 real estate agents that are here with Lakeside. And it's a committee. We talk about things that are happening in the market center, and we also talk about our businesses. It's almost like the thing that I get out of it. It's a mastermind, for once a month that we all get together and we talk about our businesses. We talk about what's working, what's not working, while helping grow the market center with our respective committees. So. I've been a part of it for several years, and it allows us to be around other high achievers and big thinkers. And so it's a blessing to be a part of, while again developing ourselves, but also helping the market center with its growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's shift gears here a little bit in terms of like leverage. You've talked a couple times today about focusing on your strengths, maybe not doubling down on weaknesses as much, right? And we've talked about calendar and time blocking the right activities.
Yeah.
What specific tools do you use to make sure you're focusing on the right activities and you're leveraging other pieces of your day that aren't maybe in your highest and best use of your time?
Yeah, for sure. So I have there's like a to-do list, but there's also a should-do list, right? So if I have 5 things that I could get done every single day, I think that would be a win. Right. And like the 5 things, they're different, but it's really revolves around, lead generating for new business, following up with people that I've already spoke to, putting appointments on the calendar, and negotiating contracts. If I can do those things and setting appointments, if I could do that every single day, 4 or 5 days a week, then that would be a win. The business will take care of itself. Where I'm at now is that I really need 2 people. Like, one is like a transaction coordinator, which I have kind of at part-time, and I am also looking for somebody that's 100% dedicated to the customer experience, because when I was, because I am by myself, and when I get busy, I tend to put my head down and I'm just like, okay, let's do the transaction. Let's get it closed with the best customer service possible. But I feel like there's a layer in there that I'm missing to, just 100%. Like the experience, not just not just servicing the transaction.
There's 198 transactional tasks within a relationship with a buyer or seller, right? 198 things that have to happen from the moment you start that relationship from lead gen to post-closing. 198. And 6 of them must be done by a licensed realtor. Mm-hmm. The other 192 can be leveraged. And that's part of what you're talking about. There's about 40 to 50 tasks that are specifically customer-oriented, customer-focused, that is more about the service and experience the customer will have that you'd be able to leverage. And whether you do that through Keller Williams Lakeside's transaction coordination team, our marketing team, or if you go out and hire, somebody to do it for yourself, that's something that absolutely will create that buffer, right?
Yeah.
And it's you setting it up. It's you saying things like, listen, Nick, from this point forward, you're going to hear from Sally Sue, and that's a good thing. If I'm calling you, that means that we probably have a little bit more hectic or frustrating item that we're working through, and I want you to hear it from me directly. How does that sound, right? And you're just setting up expectations and standards moving forward.
And setting that up front, it makes the customer feel like they're not getting pawned off or set aside. Yeah, and that's a great point, because like, just because I don't want to do it doesn't mean that it doesn't need to get done.
Exactly. And remember, the customer experience drives what must be done next.
Yeah.
It's our job as leaders to go figure out how to do it, when to do it, and how to make it affordable. The customer experience drives it. You think Walmart, you think Barnes & Noble today would say, I'm not going to do 2-day shipping.
Mm-hmm.
No. Amazon. Yeah. And if you remember, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, it was perfectly acceptable for a package to take 10 days.
Right.
Today, if it's more than, COVID exposed that. Today, if it was more than 3 to 5 days, you're like, where the heck?
You're like, no, I don't have time for this.
Where are my Tostito chips? Like,
right.
It's like, go to Meijer and get them.
Yeah,
I don't understand. But the consumer drove that experience.
Right.
And so it's the same thing in real estate here is the moment that you start to think about any level of service not being repeatable, duplicatable, sustainable, and enjoyable for the consumer, there's an opportunity for somebody else to come in and create that experience better.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the whole reason Teams even exists. If you really think about it, you have a dedicated person for showings or a dedicated person for buyers. Like, we are your person. And that's the whole reason that teams have continued to evolve and expand and grow, and that's exactly what you're talking about now. Is
for sure, it's all leverage.
Experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And leveraging your it's really your time. Your time to either go work on other aspects of the business or go home and be with your family. So it's all good, sustainable.
I want to ask you this question as we're getting towards the tail end of our time together today. How do you say yes to the right things? I feel like many industries, but especially real estate, there's so many shiny objects that you can go pursue.
Yeah.
There's another training, there's another workshop, there's a new product that will hand you a guaranteed 5 leads a month, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
How has Nick, now you're approaching a decade in this industry, how have you selectively been able to say yes and strategically said no?
It's a lot of trial and error. Because I've been through it to where we try something, again, the shiny objects. It's like, it's sticking to the fundamentals, and you have to know what the fundamentals are in order to work them, So it's like, over the years of being on a team and being a solo agent, we've done it. We've done the whole trial and error of hey, this is new and exciting, but it's still a relationship business. And I don't mean to be repetitive with this, but it's like the shiny object it will always be the people that you have served and the people that are in your life, because like the house, right? That's just the thing. It could be a widget, it could be a car or whatever, but a person has to be living in that house. A person has to be driving that car, right? If we don't have the person, the people relationships, then the new CRM really doesn't matter if you have nobody to put it in.
Yeah.
The database, that's just an example.
Yeah.
And sure, yeah, I'm sure that you could buy leads, you could do all those things. Nothing wrong with that, but there's a cost to that. And which adds up over time, so it's just, at the end of the day, the more people that you're in relationships with, that's
relationships.
Yeah, that's really I
love that.
I try to make this as simple as possible, And I will tell you, regarding saying yes and no to the right things, is that I have a 7 and a 6-year-old, and it's that gets put on the calendar first, and then the business kind of takes care of itself after that,
Right.
If I know that Fridays at 5:45, that's cheerleading, you know what I mean? That's what's going to happen. Once that's handled, then I can go and do other business things. But it's when you have kids, you only have 15 summers. Anything above 15, it's they tend to not want to spend any time with you, So it's protecting that time. The money comes and goes, the commissions come and goes, but it's you only have that to work with.
Yeah, and that's huge. And I know family's everything to you, Nick. And I know a big reason for your hunter mentality is to take care of that homestead and to partner with your awesome wife and raise your beautiful children together. It's awesome to see that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's very easy to get away from that, chasing the next deal and chasing that, running around, trying to, for the next transaction. But it's again, life is long. You know what I mean? It's not short.
Nick Tracy, he's at Keller Williams Lakeside. Nick Tracy Real Estate, and a good friend and leader in my life, and somebody that I appreciate carving out some time today. I know on Tuesdays at 2, you go on Facebook Live and you do a nice job of giving updates on the market as well as highlighting your family and just life, right? So if you want to check out Nick Tracy, check out his Facebook, check out Tuesdays at 2. Talk about locking you into keeping doing that.
Right, yeah, thank you. Right, good occasionally, not great, exactly. Or whatever. Good consistently, not great occasionally.
Yeah, all right. I appreciate you, Nick, and I wish you nothing but the best as we continue to move onward and upward.
That's right. Thank you for this. Appreciate it.
A big thank you to Nick Tracy for carving out some time to share some business and life lessons with us here at Forward Focus. For some of the resources Nick mentioned, please follow the link below in the description. And as always, if you found value in today's content, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss a lesson to be the leader that you deserve to be. And until next time, lead on.